Mic'd up.
No, I'm gone. I'm gone. What happened? All right.
We are a well-run operation.
What the hell did you do?
Hello.
Hello, Kramer, if you're listening, but you're watching the Knicks. Welcome to this week's episode of Yankees Coast to Coast. I am one of your co-hosts, Michael Miller, with my partner in crime and leader of the free world, Adam Schneider, and the human infection, Joe Osti, ear infection, sinus infection, bronchitis, and all others, plus blood coming out of his ear and
He's
eye
a walking
infection.
infection. That's all it is. It's just all infected.
He is hermetically sealed in a booth in an unknown location to participate today.
Nobody is allowed near him.
He is sealed. He is like Bubble Boy.
Bubble Boy.
Bubble Boy Osti.
Well, wait till you guys have grandkids, because I picked this stuff from more than likely grandkids that I have. So
he is also a technological marvel. Yeah. Joe Osti.
The word boomer.
He's not even a boomer. He's more. I don't even think he's a boomer. Jeez. I think he's from the 1870s. Anyhow, for those of you listening live, please leave us a message using the Mic'd Up app. You can leave as many 30-second messages as you want. Just hit the button and watch the timer tick away like it does on other apps. Get your message in the 30 seconds. If you need to leave more than one, please do. As my friends at Highlights from Old Lives like to say, Miller leaves so many messages and has to preface them. But screw them, because they said Bill Freehand belongs in the Hall of Fame, and that's the most ridiculous thing ever. How could you pick Bill Freehand and not Thurman Munson? And I didn't even pick Thurman Munson. And when they picked on me, I got all my guys, and they liked all the choices. So screw the Highlights from Old Lives guys. Anyhow.
Wow.
I am
really
on fire.
Don't hold back.
I challenge them to a crossover show. I want to see me and Adam on there with two of their clowns.
Great idea. I love it.
Let's see what they can do when That's it. Screw those guys. Now I want to see them leave us a message. Yeah, not to mention they make rules for their own show, and their own guy says who should be in the Hall of Fame, and the guy picks Edgar Martinez, who's already in the Hall of Fame, and Ichiro, who's not eligible yet. Give me a break. Come on, man. Anyhow.
For anybody I feel like Mika on MSNBC right now. Okay.
What, does that make me Joe?
Yeah, you're Joe.
Well, at least
I'm just bringing it back to the news, our show. Yeah. By the way, if anybody wants to, participate, please. We're doing trivia today. So feel free to ask us a question. We probably have no idea, but we will definitely give it a shot. And we got three great minds here, three doctors in some form or another. Please feel free.
Listen, I always refer to myself as a mental eggplant, so I will not call myself a great mind under any circumstances.
Four doctors, if you include Kramer's bobblehead.
That's the most intelligent Kramer I've ever seen. So we're going to start off. This is what we're going to talk about today. We're always starting off with our This Week in Yankee Baseball. And then we'll get into our second topic, which is our injuries and baseball injuries, because that's been in the news lately. And we picked this topic before it even made the news, which is really funny that we're ahead of the curve, yet we're only on every week. And then we're also going to respond to any trivia questions that came in, which so far there's only one. And I think Joe knows the answer, but we'll get to that at the end of the show. So let's start off with Mr. Adam. Pick a player. What player about the Yankees you want to talk about first?
Well, I really liked, gotta love Anthony Volpe. I just love it. It's a completely different guy, and amazing. Change the swing, go the other way a couple times, get comfortable hitting the ball hard to right field, and suddenly you've got 1,041 OPS, and he's got 7 walks and only 9 strikeouts this year, and 2 of them were against Angel Hernandez, so I don't count that. So, I think he's spraying. He's got a feel for the game right now. I love that they put him in leadoff spot. I hope he doesn't get nervous and start to regress. But I gotta love it. I'm so happy with Volpe. What can you not like? What's not to like about the kid there?
Well, I like him because I drafted him in our stupid fantasy league, and I was not happy that I got stuck with him as my starting shortstop. But right now,
I'm very happy now.
There's nothing positive, nothing negative you could say about Volpe right now, other than the fact that he's actually made a couple of stupid errors.
That's right. He has made errors. So you got to think is his hitting now.
Right.
Focus on. So you want him to think. I'm certain he'll be fine. But I think
right. But it was last year he made, as Coach Scavone used to say at Foothill when I was coaching under him on the varsity, he wants our players to make 100% of the routine plays, and if you have the fundamentals, you'll end up making a lot of the tough plays. Volpe's missed a couple of routine ones, which shocked the heck out of me. Joe, what do you think of Mr. Volpe?
Volpe's great. I mean, yeah, he's throwing too. He's been throwing the ball up the line a little bit. And Rizzo is not coming off the bag. I think one of those he probably could have gone up the line a little bit and got that ball. I don't know what game it was. It was against Miami. But Rizzo just kind of plants himself at first base. He doesn't move that much around first base when he's on the bag. But Volpe's going to be fine. I like that he flattened out his swing. He's going the other way. I think Soto being on the team, it's not only helping Volpe. I think it's helping the whole team out to be patient. And he's staying back and he's taking a lot of pitches, which is good. He's not swinging early in the count. And he got hosed by Hernandez, he had 2 at bats taken away from him basically, the last game, 2 games ago. But he's going to be fine, and picking him up was a smart thing. Adam, you had him last year.
Yeah, I loved it. I liked him last year. It wasn't a great. Listen, 20 home runs. At batting average wasn't there. He stole a lot of bases early, then he stopped. But that's the one thing I'd like to see him do more. I hope this year he's got 3 stolen bases right now. I'd like to see him take off a little bit more often. He is a dynamic base runner, and I'd like to see them. They don't have a lot of that.
So Adam, do you realize 3 stolen bases in 13 games is about 40 for the season?
Yeah, I mean that's good. All right, granted, but I think he's been on base in circumstances where he could have stolen, and he could have 5 to 7 right now. So it's not bad that he only has 3. I'm saying now he can do more. The question is, are they going to do what they always do? They say, well, he's got Soto, he's got Soto, he's got Judge coming up. Let's not run him out of an inning. No, you do it. You play baseball hard, and you do everything. You put pressure on the infield. You open up the infield. A contact guy like Soto. Gotta love having a guy running because it opens up the infield. So I would be, I think that they need to do that now. So
we went off topic a little, but I would also argue that he can run with Soto up at the plate because Soto doesn't need that hole between first and second like a dead pull hitter would need. He hits the ball over the field. Asti, which player would you like to bring up?
Well, I have Stanton. When you said that you got Volpe like later in the draft and you weren't happy. Unfortunately, I got Lindor as my shortstop, and I'm waiting for him to get going. But I think Stanton is going to be hot. He runs hot and cold. Right now, he seems to be hot, and he's hitting the ball the other way. If he doesn't run into one and pull it. But having Stanton going and batting cleanup is great. And the other guy, bring up if you want another guy, I think is going to be a major change for the Yankees. And it was like an afterthought on that trade. Is Verdugo? He's a mainstay in left field. He's a great left fielder. It's best we've had. God, I can't remember the last time we had a consistent left fielder. And he's starting to hit a little bit, and he puts the ball in play. He doesn't really strike out that much. And he's getting squeezed a little bit too on home plate. But I like Verdugo. I like the whole team. I mean, it's fun. It's fun watching the game compared to last year, which was brutal. It was tough watching a game. I mean, it's fun, and 2 weeks into it, let's hope it continues.
So I'm gonna pick an issue as opposed to a player on this one. So the Yankees are leading the league in pitches per
At bat,
per at bat. Yep. Actually, they're third in baseball. The league leaders are at 4.83. Volpe's at 4.7, which is third in all of baseball. Torres is 4.32. Judge is over 4. Soto's over 4. And Wells is over 4. Judge is second in the league in walks behind Betts. Soto's right behind him. So they are getting a lot of walks and they are doing a lot of things. And quite frankly, I don't mind long at bats. I mind the long game, which is why I like the pitch clock. But I love long at bats. I love it because they're faster at bats because of the pitch clock. And I love the
Think
fact
about what you just said, though. All those pitches, if 4 guys are averaging over 4 at bats, pitches per 5 pitches per, so you're looking at 20 pitches per at bat, per round, per cycle through the order. 4 times you're looking at these guys are throwing 85 pitches to these 4 players in a game.
These five players, and they're throwing almost 100 pitches to these 5 guys if you go through the whole game.
I mean, that's incredible. I mean, that alone, that is a very, very good sign, and that's a new approach. That's the approach that was a '90s approach. Yeah, that is not the way they played. They've been playing for the last decade or so. No, so exactly. It's good to see it.
So the other thing, though, that I do want to bring up, and I will bring up a player now, and I want to get your opinion on it. And you guys know who my favorite punching bag is. He's now batting 6th in the lineup instead of leadoff. He's still seeing a lot of pitches, but it's not really giving him any production, and that's Torres. He still swings with his butt in the third base dugout. Too much. It's like he had since opening day, that first at bat of the season, he was fantastic, and I was like, okay, this is going to work. And since then, the guy is struggling, and it's really disappointing to see. Even when he gets the base hit to right field, it's one of these butts out, reach out and get lucky and hit the ball to the opposite field. Whereas you see guys like Volpe and Soto hitting the ball to the opposite field, they're driving the ball to the opposite field. And he's disappointing. And quite frankly, he's still lackadaisical on defense.
Yeah, I'm going to go there. He did it again the other day. He turned a perfectly good double play into some kind of ridiculous throw into the dugout. It's like his footwork was a mess at second base. He caught the ball on the wrong foot, so he stepped on the wrong. He stepped wrong in the bag. Like he used his right foot instead of his left foot to field the ball at second, and then he was completely off balance when he made the throw. And it's just I don't understand his where his head goes when he's at second base. It's a smart position. I mean, I have to admit, it's underrated. But you have to you got to catch the ball and you got to throw the ball. And I know because I can't do it very well.
What do you think of Torres, Mr. Osti?
Well, it's Dr. Osti.
Sorry. Oh, sorry, Doctor. You're retired. You're no longer a doctor.
Talk about big leaguing us.
Mister. Listen, he's I think he's pressing. He's in his walk year. He doesn't have last year of arbitration was this year. So, I think he's pressing for a long-term contract with whatever team is going to give him $20 million for, 7, 8, 9, 10 year. Who knows? Position players will probably get a longer contract now than starting pitching. The way starting pitching's going, I can't see long-term contracts anymore with starting pitching. But I think he's pressing. I think he's going to be fine. He'll just settle down a little bit. It's good that he's not leading off. He's he's in the 6th hole, which is a good spot for him right now. Yeah. I thought Volpe was eventually going to be leading off, and he's in the right spot. So, yeah, I think he's going to be fine.
So go ahead.
No, I'm just saying the whole team is clicking right now. I mean, it's 2 weeks in. It's early, but they're going to go through a bad stretch. There's no doubt about it. But right now, they're fun to watch.
I'll tell you this: if you want to know the truth, the whole team is not clicking. I did some research on the stats. There are several players who are clicking, but they're not clicking. They're pretty much at the league average in batting average, 247. Their on base is good. Their slugging is at league average. Their runs scored is at league average, but they do lead the league in grounding into double plays.
Yeah,
that's right.
So they are number one in, like I said, pitches per plate appearance. The other thing where they're also leading the league, they're leading the league in pitching ERA, starting pitching ERA, relief pitching ERA, but they are worst in the league. And this is something Adam has pointed out over and over again. They are worst in the league in strikeout rate by the relief pitchers, and their strikeout to walk rate by relief pitchers is the worst in the league. But that's only because they don't strike anybody out.
Yeah. Let me one other thing that you should mention, they're also leading the league in walks. They have 66 walks to the Dodgers 61. On base percentage is just okay because, again, guys like there are guys who are still not pulling up the or pulling up the rear and on base. But what's amazing is what's going to happen to this team when Judge gets hot. Can you imagine Judge getting 2 or 3 hits a game, hits a home run every 2 to 3 games? What it means to this lineup. If they had that right now, how much better they'd be. And you're right, we're not getting so much. We're getting a lot of double plays, and they're guys who are not hitting at the bottom of the order.
Yeah, the walks are important. I think Judge is leading the league in walks, isn't he?
He's second to Betts. He's leading the American League.
Second to Betts, yeah. And Betts has got 2 more games on him. They played 2 over in China, in Korea. So, he's right up there.
The other thing that I liked that I saw that Yankees had not been doing in the past is they had the rare day game after night game and kept the same lineup. Even the catcher, Judge, Stanton, and Wells all played, guys that they normally would rest, all played the day game after a night game. And the guy that's hitting the toughest luck for the team, Wells has one of the hard hit ball rates in baseball right now. And yet he's, hitting 140 if he's hitting that. But I like the fact that they finally seem to be playing the guys. I feel bad for Grisham, but they seem to be playing the guys every day, which I think is
why do they like Birdie so much? Why didn't they like Birdie?
That's the other issue that I was going to bring up is why did Cabrera sit? It was 3 lefties in a row, but why? The guy was hitting. Why 3 games in a row? Birdie, what's the name of that fast outfielder the Yankees had for a couple of years? They kept bringing him in. He was pinch running all the time. He was on the Mets last year.
Oh,
he was a right-handed hitter.
Solomon. What's it? I know who you're talking about. I can't remember the name.
Right.
But I've got it.
That's what Birdie reminds me of at the plate. He doesn't look like he can hit the ball hard.
I don't know.
And
it just seemed odd to take him. He made that. He won those games for them in Houston. No question. So then he comes home, and now they're sitting him again. It's an interesting dynamic. They bring these guys in on a trade or they pick somebody up, and they always feel like they've got to justify the deal by giving them some player time when the guys from the minor leagues probably deserve it a little bit more. But I don't know. We'll see. It could just be maybe it's the 3 lefties in a row. I don't know. But do we have? Can I bring up one thing about that I do want to mention on back on Joe Stanton? Absolutely is a different guy than he was exactly a week ago when we were on this. We talked about. We said I said he looks through, and I'm not saying that he's not. And it could just be a hot week, but he's doing something that I've been angry about for 4 years. He's swinging early in the count now. Like he's not going into an 0-2, 1-2, even a 2-2 count. He's swinging at the second pitcher. So he's taking 1 strike, and then the next one he sees in his eyes, he pounds it. So he seems to be getting around on high fastball again, which is nice. Not great fastballs, but he's getting around on high stuff. Which is, to me, a hard thing when you're getting older, catching up to speed up high. There's some good signs there, and I'm wondering if it's his better conditioning is finally helping. Maybe they're right. Maybe there's something left. Agree? Disagree?
Well, losing weight probably helped. He seems like he's jogging better. Than last year. So
he runs like us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going from first to third is a little tough anyway. But he's making it. He's done it a couple of times now, and I think he scored from second on some doubles. So, I mean, I think he's one run away from tearing a calf muscle, like he's had the last several years. So, then
Yeah,
he's going to
well,
be out
that's
for
it, and
6
he
weeks.
knows it.
Yeah, yeah,
He knows it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and the other thing,
Because I agree with you.
the other thing is, I don't want to see Cousins. I don't want to see Santana. I don't understand. It makes no sense to me. Those guys are quadruple A at best. This other lefty, Wojciechowicz or whatever his name is, that they brought in, I don't want to see him either. You want multi-inning relievers, then get Beater and Wheeler, Beater and what's his face? What's the other guy's name? Warren. Get Beater and Warren up here to be the multi-inning relievers. And then yesterday they're talking about they need to have Weaver ready to pitch in the starting role if one of the guys gets hurt. Why'd they take him out after 2 innings and 35 pitches yesterday? Let the guy pitch. I mean, it was a 4-0 game. Perfect time to let Weaver throw. It didn't hurt them because they brought in 2 guys who got them through the next 2 innings. Don't get me wrong, but if you really need a guy stretched out, let Weaver pitch 3 innings. And I just don't understand these, Cousins and Santana and this Wojciechowicz character. Why are they on the roster? Give me Warren and Beater and let them pitch multi-innings, especially with Schmidt not throwing many innings and Heel not being able to throw very many innings because they've both thrown too many pitches.
Yeah.
So, Santana's
Interesting.
no good.
But listen,
anything else on the Yankees this week you guys want to bring up?
No,
I mean, I'm with you on the starting
point. Nestor throwing 8 innings was big. That saved the bullpen because the bullpen was getting a little roughed up because they played all those games in a row. So I think the bullpen's is fine now. They got a day off today. They'll get it going. But Holmes reminds me of Wetland, where he'll come in and put guys on and make you sweat, and then he gets the job done. Barely, but he gets the job done. But he reminds me a lot of Wetland back in the 90s. I mean, an awful lot.
Well, Wetland was a strikeout guy, and Holmes has not shown himself to be a strikeout guy.
No.
And I'm a little concerned. I wrote in the text to you guys while he was pitching, Hamilton didn't look right to me. He pitched his inning in 2/3 or whatever he did with no runs, but he looked like he was throwing the ball differently. His motion looked different. He didn't look comfortable out there. And I'm curious to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I think that my concern still is the same. I think the strength is the Rodon and Nestor starts. To get the 7 into the 8th inning or so. That's what I was asking for a week ago. I said we got to get at least one more inning out of these guys to start saving the relief corps, because I think that's exactly my concern. There are signs that there already are some. We've lost a little Isaac. I mean, he was never a factor this season, but they need a strong bullpen, a rested bullpen. And, they're not going to have that if they keep going 5-6 innings. So they need that 5 innings, 4 innings. Going a minimum of 6 is what they have to get to. And they've got to somehow do it where they push somebody in there. I mean, it shouldn't just be someone who's doing well. If somebody's having a hard time and he's struggling to get through, he's up at 95, 100 pitches. Let him go to 110. Come on. I mean, this is crazy.
Well, I like what they did with Stroman yesterday. I mean, Stroman didn't have his best stuff, and he allowed the 3-run homer was really the only thing that did him in yesterday. But he battled his way through 5 innings yesterday and 95 pitches, which is good. He didn't have good stuff, and he pushed his way through, which is a good sign. Getting back to Verdugo, I was ready to say that we need to bench his butt and let Grisham have a run, and then he had the 2 good games in a row, and then yesterday he got screwed by the umpire. I got a text from somebody, I don't know if it was one of you guys. Yesterday's umpire had a 73% accuracy rate.
Yeah.
On strike calls that were not swung at. Yeah, he was and it was bad both ways. They actually said it was to the Yankees' advantage over the course of the game, but somebody sent me the stats and said it was a 73% accuracy rate for pitches taken that were called for strikes. That is worse than Angel Hernandez. And the guy's name was Bacon, and that's how I remember his name, because he wasn't sizzling back there, that's for sure. Boom, boom, boom.
I think that's something I want to say. I was going to ask, the one thing I bet we all can agree on without any question is the umpiring is horrendous. It's like, what's happened ever since they go to they've got the Spectre of Statcast. They've got the idea that you've got the full mostly replays from almost every play. They just seem a little lazier on the bag, and I see a lot of mistakes on plays that are overturned because they just don't seem to be focusing like they used to. And I'm wondering what's going on behind the plate because they just missing everything. Now we also see that box. We see the strike box. And I don't know how accurate that is because it seems that they miss a lot of those too. Now, the stat box in baseball, is it the ball crossing the plate or where it lands? Because that is different, obviously. So I'm not sure if we're getting the right data when we watch games, but it seems that these guys are missing stuff by 3-4 inches in some cases, and that's not a small mistake.
No, I know that in the independent league this year, they're not only testing the robo ump, but what they're doing is they're giving the batters the right to ask for a replay on one pitch. I think it's one pitch per bat or something like that. But they're testing that in the independent league, which is an interesting thing.
That's going to slow the game down. That'll never happen.
If it's only one pitch, it's one pitch. I don't care. I want them to go to. I've been saying for years I want the robo ump behind, for strikes and balls behind the plate. I'm sick and tired of this. A strike is a strike is a strike. The strike zone is the strike zone. The fact that they have scouting reports on these umpires shows that the umpires all have different strike zones, and you can't have a different strike zone. That's just garbage. The strike zone is whatever it is, the spot at the bottom of the knee to the spot at just above the belly button. I don't care what the strike zone is. You can tell me it goes to the top of their head. I don't care. But the strike zone needs to be defined, and they need to have a robo ump. If you have a scouting report on an umpire, clearly it shows that the umpires have different strike zones, which as a hitter would drive me bananas. What do you think of the robo ump, Dr. Osti? Doctor.
Well, I certainly agree. And, geez, that's something that they had the technology to do it. Most of the problems are, it's arbitrary on, where you draw that line from below the knee to the letters or the armpits or whatever, because guys go into a crouch and they, that can be, up and down a little bit. So I don't think the guys complain that much of a ball that is, an inch high or a ball that's, an inch low, but they really go nuts when the ball is outside. Even inside, pitches. But usually the umpire, because the umpire, there's another issue I've had, and I've talked to umpires, not professional, major league umpires, but I've talked to umpires that do college games, and I said, you guys are all pussies because you set up on the inside because they don't want to get hit with a foul ball. So they set up on the inside corner to a righty and a lefty. So they're missing the outside calls. That's the major problem. Inside pitch, you can hit. An outside pitch, if it's 2 inches outside, especially low and outside, you can't hit the freaking thing. And that's what they're missing. They're missing the low and outside pitches. And that's what really bothers a hitter. I mean, look at Paul O'Neill. He talks about that all the time. Low and outside pitches, you just can't get to it, especially in a fastball or a breaking ball that's coming at you and all of a sudden breaks 3 feet and it's low and outside. You can't get to it.
Not to mention the stat last night. I think it was that they looked up on the Verdugo at bat, the first one, where it was 1-1 and the guy missed the pitch on the outside corner. And Michael Kay came back with the stats. It said if it's a 1-2 count, the batter's on base percentage is in the low 200s. And if it's 2-1 count, the batter's on base percentage was over 375. That's a huge difference. That 1-1 pitch is, if you miss that 1-1 pitch, you really put a batter in a hole. That's a big difference between low 200s and upper 300s for an on base percentage. So it's not necessarily even a hit, but it puts the hitter in a really bad spot when you get
Only
down
that
1-2 on a bad ball.
psychologically, I mean, he was pissed and it ruined his at bat. You knew he was going to strike out.
Yeah.
And Boone even said it in his post game. He said, "You got, you got to let it go and just, hang in there."
Yeah, says the guy who got tossed over it.
Well, I thought it was going to happen Sunday. I
Oh,
think we even
Sunday.
talked about that.
I thought he was gone by the second inning Sunday. So, all right. So, anything else Yankees want to talk about before we get going on the rest of the stuff?
Soto.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good.
Soto's incredible. I want him to let's bring it up. Unbelievable. 468 on base percentage. It's the most beautiful thing. 11 walks, only 8 Ks so far. The guy and 2 of them were against Angel. So I mean, I'm just telling you right now, the guy is a throwback, and it's just a pleasure. Every at bat is an experience. It's poetry watching him move. They were talking about this on K today. Watching him move behind the plate, at the plate. You can see his perspective. You almost see he slows the ball down. You can throw 100 miles an hour. It doesn't matter. He sees it. He has something. It's like nothing I've ever seen in a player. Maybe since Mattingly. Mattingly, I would say this a lot. He's a lot like Mattingly, in that he would dissect. Every at bat was a dissection of what was happening, and the way he touches, he doesn't swing the way he did, but the same kind of all fields approach. Just a beautiful Mattingly at his best in like 87, 86, 87.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. Mattingly at his best. That's a great comparison. Mattingly at his best. I just, and one of the complaints that they had about him in San Diego and in Washington was that he refused to go outside the strike zone. Well, as Kay said on his show today, and I was listening, don't go out of your strike zone. Let them walk you, and then let Judge come up with men on base.
That's what he does.
What are you going to do? Walk Soto to get to Judge? I mean, they've been getting away with it right now because Judge isn't hitting, but even Judge has almost a 360 on base percentage because of all the walks. We said in the beginning of the year, Stanton and Rizzo, until he gets hurt, Stanton and Rizzo are going to be the key to the offense.
That's right, because they're going to have these guys on base all the time, and it's going to be a beautiful thing. So I think that we've got to really, I love that he's not that kind of guy. I love that he's not selfish. And that's what we're always saying. These guys, taking a walk, there's nothing wrong with it. It never hurts you to take a walk unless you're down by 9 runs and it doesn't matter. But
it doesn't hurt.
It never hurts you. It just doesn't help you. But there's no downside.
It's like rolling an 11 in craps when the point has already been made. Who cares? Doesn't hurt anybody. Yo 11 doesn't hurt anybody.
All right.
So
good.
So going on,
I think he likes playing. The fans in right field are having a good time with him.
They love him.
He's having a good time with the fans as well. So,
they love him.
Yeah, I mean, I like to see it continue, and boy, maybe that might swing him a little bit, when it comes contract terms, but I doubt it.
Yeah. Hey, listen, he's notoriously slow starter, and he's not slow starting. By the way, just to get back to your Lindor complaint, Lindor is also a notoriously slow starter. Look at where he was last year in May. He's probably about the same as he is now.
Oh, really?
So you can look forward to that. So what I want to talk to everybody about now is the Mic'd Up app. You're listening live. You have the Mic'd Up app. There's other shows on the Mic'd Up app. There's the Jim Darby Show, which is every other Wednesday. He's a former Easton sports executive and an author. A lot of contacts with the Cal Bears program and a lot of contact with Cal Bears players who have made it to the major leagues. He also gives insight into his 40 years working in the sporting goods industry with Major League Baseball players, NHL players, and NFL players. That's the Jim Darby Show. The other show that I'm going to highlight today, as much as it burns my buns to do it, is the highlights from lowlifes guys who seem to like to pick on the Yankees, even though they spent so much time yesterday pushing their Giants to be in the Hall of Fame. One guy even, much to Weber's credit, Weber shot down the Barry Bonds conversation. And then another guy, Vita Blue is a borderline guy. I can live with that. But they pick on us a little bit. But the highlights from lowlifes guys are the lowlifes. They are certainly guys that can't see above the curve. They play in the same baseball league as I did, and they're good friends. They've been doing their show before the Mic'd Up app during the pandemic, but they do it now on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. almost every week, unlike us, who has not missed a week yet. These guys took a week off. And they discuss the topic of the day. They're sponsored by a beer distributor, so they do review the beers that they get to taste. And they combine the hot topics of the day with pop culture and sports, and usually surrounding a best of five list that they go through with their group.
Let's face it, we are gamers. They are not. We are.
No, that's 6 p.m. Eastern. Are they coming from the
That's
West
6
Coast?
p.m. Pacific, so it's a little past your bedtime, Joe.
So it's 9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. But I do recommend the show, and you could always catch our show as well as their show on the Previously tab. I do recommend yesterday's show. It was a good show, even though they picked on me relentlessly. That Rob
Because you
Landerman
had 9 calls. You sent 9 messages.
Well, I had to back up the guys.
Overdid it.
And Landerman, who's one of the big wigs over there, he's a teammate of mine this season. It's a shame because if I was playing against him, I could throw at him. And I do want to send a shout out to Landerman. He's got a family member. His wife is in the hospital. Hope she's doing well and recovers very soon. So our topic of the day is, and that's the reason we have Dr. Joe Osti, or as Frankie the Yankee texted me, Dr. Hall of Famer Joe Osti in the Yankee Fantasy Camp Hall of Fame is with us to talk about injuries, specifically pitcher injuries, which everybody knows has been the hot topic in baseball this year.
Yes.
So what we want to do is talk about the hot issues. One of the things that we wanted to talk about is, are there truly more injuries this year than previous years? And what's the reason for those injuries? Is it the pitch clock? Is it the technology changes? Is it the human body physiology? What is it? There's a lot of things to put our arms around, and there's been a lot of noise in this area. So I want to start off with Dr. Joe. Dr. Joe, is the human body made to throw a baseball?
No, we've had this discussion before. It's not made to throw. It's made to throw a baseball, but it's probably more because of the muscles on the front, especially the bicep. It's made to throw a baseball underhand, not overhand. That's why you saw, who was it? Eddie Feiner, I think it was, the softball player who actually struck out major leaguers. Now, I don't know if he was throwing from 45 feet or 60 feet, but he was striking out guys in the 60s. You know, in the exhibition, Mickey Mantle was one of them. Couldn't touch him. So
was that the king in his court guy, Eddie?
Yep, I think it was Eddie Feiner, and it was and the king in his court.
Not Eddie Fetter though.
So much, I think no, and I think he only played with like 3 fielders or something like that. It was crazy because he struck everybody out. But anyway, what it comes down to is, number one, I don't know if there's more injuries, but you're seeing high-end pitches. When Strider's having his second Tommy John surgery at, what is he, 25 years old?
Amazing.
And that is, that's not encouraging for the sport. There's a couple of guys that have gone and had second Tommy Johns and came back. Evaldi, I think, I was talking to Kramer today about that as well. And Tyone,
another great medical mind.
Tyone had 2, and he was serviceable. Evaldi is doing well with Texas, and I think the Yankees got rid of him after he started having his second. But there's a lot of different reasons. I don't think the pitch clock has anything to do with it. I think it's, number one, velocity, trying to throw as hard as possible for as long as possible. And they learn that early. These kids learn it in high school. Throw as hard as you can for as long as you can. And the other one is they crack down on the tackiness on a ball, so you can't put pine tar or any of this tack to get a better grip, so you get more spin. So the guys now, from what I understand, I heard a doctor talking about this online, and it made a lot of sense to me, that these guys are gripping the ball harder and trying to get more spin on the seams. And because of that, he attributes a lot of the issues now with the elbows going, is that on their breaking balls and even the 4-seamers and 2-seamers, that they're trying to get more spin. And without the tackiness, that's what's creating a lot more of the problem, as well as the velocity. I mean, But
So there's a
that made
lot
a lot of sense, though.
That does make a lot of sense. A lot of things. What's interesting is that on the fastballs, especially the four seamer, the spin rate, they're trying to get the backspin rate, because what the backspin rate does is it means the ball fight against gravity a little bit longer, because even if you throw the ball 103, gravity's still pulling the ball down. You can't fight gravity. Gravity always wins. Ask anybody who's ever jumped out of a plane without a parachute. Anyhow, you spin the ball and you get that backwards thing. So I found an article, and it was written this year. 21 pitchers in Major League Baseball last year averaged 96.5 miles per hour or higher on their fastball. Out of those pitchers, 21 of them averaged 96.5. Out of those pitchers, how many of them do you think had at least one Tommy John surgery?
16.
Joe? Probably 50%.
17 of them have had at least one Tommy John. It gets better. Ready? DeGrom, Eovaldi, Ohtani, and Walker Buehler have had 2 Tommy Johns. And Drew Rasmussen from the Blue Jays just had his 3rd Tommy John.
3rd.
Wow.
3rd.
I never heard of 3.
Yeah.
3 I haven't heard.
So there's 3 guys that were on. Actually, it's 18 out of the 21. Sorry. And what's interesting, the 3 guys who didn't have Tommy John yet, the only one that had significant innings in Major League Baseball is Luis Castillo. The other 2 are Grayson Rodriguez, who's a young guy on the Orioles, and Cole Reagans on the Royals, who's also a young guy. But 18 out of the 21 have had Tommy John. And by the way, Strider's looking at his 2nd, which would put him on the list of 2 guys with Tommy John surgeries. So it's a whole bunch of things that are out there. One of the things that I also pulled were some quotes, and this goes along the same lines of what Joe was saying. Verlander said that when he came up, he was pitching differently than he did over the course of his career. He said with the new baseballs, people were hitting him out of the stadium, chicks dig the long ball, right? He had to switch his pitching style from being a pitcher and trying to get guys out, because every time they hit the ball in the air, it was a home run. He had to become a swing and miss guy. Yeah. And he had to change how he pitched. And that means he had to throw more velocity. And that's even before all of the different measurements that are out there. Alec Wood said the same thing. So it's interesting to say that the spin rate and the velocity has really had a big thing. Adam, what do you think?
I think there's a scary sign. I think a lot of this is makes you question these huge contracts. If you're looking at 2 and 3 surgeries for these guys in a lifetime, in a career, you're looking at missing 4 or 5 years of your career unless you get it timed just right, and it never does. So that's pretty incredible. It seems to me that this is taught way back into probably middle school, the way they're coming up now. You're trying to think. I heard a great conversation. I can't remember where they were talking about. You're 15 years old and you throw 80 miles an hour already, and somebody says to you, all right, let's keep getting it. Let's push it. Let's get you close to 100. You're not fully grown yet. You're going to get there. Kid, here's your, we're going to have a talk with you as a parent and a coach talking to him. We're going to tell you, we're going to train you to throw 100 miles an hour. And our hope is that you're going to have an incredible career for maybe 5 or 7 years. If you do what we think you do and you go this path, you're going to have a 5 or 7 year career where you're going to be absolutely lights out incredible. Or we're going to teach you how to be David Cohn, where you throw, or Catfish Hunter, where you throw 85, you throw 90, you throw a lot of junk. Now, you may have a 15-year career, but you're not going to be, maybe, I shouldn't say, because those guys are great pitchers, but guys that were sort of that middling range that, Nestor Cortez, the guy who, maybe win 150 games in the majors, has a great long career, but not a Hall of Famer. Is the kid going to say, okay, train me for a short, a long and successful career, or train me to be the greatest ever? They won't do it. They're teaching these kids to be absolutely at peak performance. And I just don't know if that's possible. I think that's probably a mistake, starting very early. Doc, I'm interested in your opinion on this one. Is it better to teach these kids young to throw, softly and carefully and become crafty, or to go out there and throw give it all you got every time, max effort?
No, not max effort. I'm a proponent of throwing every day. Um, I think they do that in Japan. I believe
Yes.
they throw every day. They throw the day after they start. They throw every day. I think throwing always builds up your arm. Now you don't have to do it with max velocity, but in game situations, you want to throw as hard as possible because everybody now is, I mean, look at the relievers that come in. They're all throwing close to 100. The only people that threw close to 100 at that time, and maybe the technology wasn't there at that time, was Bob Feller and then eventually Nolan Ryan. And Nolan Ryan was a freak because he never really had any major arm issues his whole career. Never had Tommy John. Never had shoulder issues.
So I pulled some more stats out just so you know. The National Library of Medicine in June of 2021 published a report, and it was a study of minor league baseball players from 2013 to 2019. And they found that starters would have a 2.4 times greater arm shoulder injury rate than relievers. And I found that interesting that the starters are having more issues. Another article I pulled, and this is interesting, is from last year, June of 2023, from Bob Nightingale. Through June 1st, or the middle of June, I'm sorry, Major League Baseball pitchers, 31 Tommy John surgeries by mid-June, 12 alone in May.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of Tommy John surgeries, and it was only June.
Let's go back to that. What you just said, I think that's an incredibly important point. I think that that these guys are, I don't know. It just seems to me that they are starters come in max effort, but you got to get through the lineup 3 times. You've got to become crafty in some cases. You need multiple pitches. You're throwing different arm angles. You're trying to deceive these guys on the 3rd time because they're so good now that they come in, and that's why they're getting hurt more, or more than relievers who always come in the same way. Come in and try to get strikeouts, ground balls, throw 15 pitches and then go down and sit down. These guys come in and are supposed to throw 100 pitches or 90. And I just think that's the reason why starters go, because they're throwing so much and having to do so much work and so many different things out there to deceive these guys. While a reliever might go 100% effort, but only for an inning and a half and 15 pitches.
That's a great point, Adam. And the relievers that come in, they're going to throw hard, and they may have a slider. They usually come in with 2 pitches. Yeah. Look at Mo; he had 1, threw 1 pitch, and never had any major arm surgery. I think he had Tommy John when he was in the minor leagues.
Yeah, 94, I think he had it, and then he came back. He was better. He was better
before he came back before he got to the Yankees. So The other thing is Major League Baseball put out a report, and this is also from last year, that 27% of all the pitchers on all Major League rosters have had at least 1 Tommy John surgery. But that number of 27% has been plus or minus 2% for like 7 years. So it seems like it's pretty steady. Another thing I did is I pulled the information for the number of elbow and shoulder injuries for pitchers on April 9th, 2023. It was 60 pitchers had elbow issues on the IL, and 44 had shoulder issues on April 9th on 2023. On April 9th, 2024, it was 67 pitchers had elbow issues, and 28 had shoulder issues. So it's pretty steady year over year, last year over this year. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that's one of the things that they were talking about. One of the things I want to talk about is technology, Joe. And as a doctor, when we were growing up, Wayne Garland was one of the first guys we ever heard rotator cuff surgery done, see career over, and he got a big 10-year contract, right? Did he get a 10-year contract from the Indians or was it from the Orioles?
Baltimore Orioles, wasn't it?
From the Orioles after he had a great year with the Indians, and then he just disappeared off the face of the earth. But back then, when they did X-rays, they were putting dye in your shoulder and doing X-rays. There was no MRI in the 80s. In the 90s, the MRI came to fruition, and obviously the MRI technology has gotten better and better. Is it possible that we're just finding more injuries because the major league teams are so quick to put guys into an MRI machine, whereas guys back in the 80s may have had a problem or may not have had a problem? Sandy Koufax probably had either a shoulder or elbow, and that's why his career was so short. Is the technology with regard to the MRI machine contributing to finding more injuries? Not that there wasn't these injuries before, but they were never found.
Well, for the most part, that's true. When we used to do dye into a joint, it was basically to see, and that was, you had the CAT scans, but you would also take an X-ray, inject dye into the shoulder joint or any joint, and then take an X-ray and see if it leaked out. And that would show that you had a capsular tear, because the capsule surrounds the joint and it keeps all the synovial fluid inside the joint to lubricate the joint. So if dye leaked out and you took an X-ray and you saw this blue or red dye leaking out past the joint, then you knew that there was some major issues. And what they used to do back in the day was, it was just rotator cuff, and the shoulder is a very complicated joint. There's all kinds of ligaments. There's capsule. There's a labrum inside the joint, and then there's all these different muscles. In the back, the scapula is attached to it too. So before, they used to just go in and repair the capsule and whatever they saw. So that's why these guys, would never really come back from shoulder surgery, because they didn't know what the hell they were doing until the MRIs came out. And the MRI was available really in the 1980s. It hasn't been that long we've been using MRIs. Before, it was a CAT scan and X-rays. That's all we had. So the technology is showing up more specific injuries and knowing how to treat it. Again, when it gets to the shoulder, it's so complicated that it's easy to screw that up, even doing surgery. I mean,
Joe, I have a question. I would love to ask you. I'm reading a lot, and you hear about it a lot. This use of Tommy John prophylactically. The idea that you're going to tell a kid when he's 17 and he's showing incredible skill that get it out of the way, have it now, and then you'll be ready for the majors without it, because your chances of having a second are limited. But what do you think of that? I mean, there are parents that are pushing these kids to have Tommy early.
I know. Yeah. I mean,
Crazy.
these guys and the doctors are doing it. I mean, that's not right. That's malpractice. You operate on somebody that maybe just has a little bit of a soreness. Unless they're specifically showing that an MRI shows a tear, there shouldn't be any kind of surgery being done. That's criminal, really.
So you think it's an ethical? You think it's an ethical issue?
Absolutely, yeah.
That you're taking a perfectly healthy elbow and you're fixing it.
Yeah, and who's doing this? Chris Shack is not doing it. Andrews, I don't think, did it. But they were seeing young kids with the ulnar collateral ligament torn or partially torn, and the parents would come in and say, even though it's partially torn, I want you to repair it. And I guess they would do it because there was a slight injury there. But to without any kind of diagnosis of a tear, even a partial tear, no surgery should be done on a kid. Come on.
What's the difference between the brace surgery that seems to be happening these days as opposed to a full TJ surgery? Yeah. Do you have any idea about that?
If you get back to the Tommy John, what they would do is they would take, generally out of the other wrist, they would take a tendon out of, if you're going to have surgery on your right arm, right elbow, they would go in on your opposite arm and take a sliver of a tendon or a small tendon here and take a section of that out, and then go into the elbow right here on the inside, make an incision, and just repair, basically just tack in that tendon that was taken out of this wrist and actually put it in place where that ligament used to be. Now with the brace procedure, it's being done with what I understand. I lost my plug again. It's being
You didn't even
done
have to stand up for that plug to come out. That's interesting.
Oh, geez, I mean, it's yeah, ears are no good either. But
What'd you say?
it's an absorbable uh, uh, ligament that they're actually just going in and repairing the ligament that way. So the brace is basically the same as doing the Tommy John, but they're not doing anything to the other wrist. And it's a smaller procedure. They don't have to open it up as much, but they're still repairing the ligament. So it's still, you said, I think we had this discussion a week or so ago. You say you had some kids in high school or college that they're back in 6 to 8 months or something like that.
With the brace
still,
surgery.
I, I, I don't know. Are they position players or pitchers?
One was a pitcher and one was a shortstop and also a relief pitcher.
That's interesting because I've heard 10 to 12 months.
Yeah, the 8 months. The 8 months they were back at full speed and able to. The pitcher is able to come back in 8 months, whereas the TJ is 12 to 16. So the other technology question I wanted to ask is, they have all these things that measure spin rate and stuff like this. And Pedro Martinez also chimed in on MLB Network or wherever he's working these days, and he said there's two things that he thinks is causing this, and he doesn't. He specifically said, I do not think it's the pitch clock. But he said that it is a combination of the technology to measure spin rate on fastballs and breaking balls, and the analytics guys upstairs who are saying, you need more spin, you need more spin, you need more spin. So you combine those two together, and the stress that that's putting on the arm is what's out of control.
Yeah.
So I want to come in with Big Juicy. He had a comment in here today about pitchers. Let's get him in.
I see there's other comments.
How much worse is it?
Frankie has one.
Yep, we'll get to him in a second. His is a trivia question.
All right.
Have to get with pitchers' arms in Major League Baseball for the league to take a serious look at this. I mean, we've got so many guys now that have had Tommy John surgery in the last year or two, and trends is accelerating this year. We've got Spencer Strider, who's only 25 years old, looking at his second Tommy John surgery. So, I mean, what's to blame? Some people blame Trevor Bauer, and he started the whole movement against grip agents. Or the Players Association claims it's the pitch clock. Who knows?
Right. We've been talking about that. I agree. I mean, it's hard to know what it is. Minor League Baseball's had the pitch clock for more than 3 seasons. I think they're on season 5 now. And they have said the number of arm and shoulder injuries, elbow and shoulder injuries, has not significantly increased in minor league baseball with the pitch clock. So,
well, Major League Baseball coming out and saying stuff. Cole is saying that it's that he thinks it is, but he isn't saying that he thinks it. He says he's not sure. He thinks it bothers him that baseball isn't taking stands to kind of look at the option. They're sort of going in and saying it's not a problem. Let's keep looking. He thinks he should have more of an open dialogue about it, and I don't disagree with that. It seems that we don't know what it is. Something's happening.
They're never going to have an open dialogue in baseball. The relationship between the Baseball Players Association, especially with our friend Tony Clark in charge, and obviously Manfred with the owners, there's a relationship there that's just god awful. And those two sides can't agree on what color the tablecloth should be in the negotiating room. It's just ridiculous. And I don't know Tony Clark from Spit, but it seems interesting to me. They did do a study with regard to the minor leagues and the pitch clock, but they should always be constantly doing the same study. Just because they did it and it came out one way doesn't mean you keep doing it. I tend to agree more with Pedro with regard to the spin rates and the stuff like that. And what's funny to me is I think with the fastball, especially a 4-seam, the looser the grip, you can really you can really get a little bit more spin at a certain point in time with regard to depending on how you grip the baseball. But we'll see what happens. I just I don't think this is a topic that's going to go away. It's only gotten louder and louder. There was a study done by the American Association of Sports Medicine, and they talked about the massive increase in the number of high school pitchers and college pitchers and minor league pitchers who are having the elbow surgery and the Tommy John surgery, and that number is not going down. We can get into the argument of whether it's the chicken or the egg, which came first. Is it the technology? Is it not the technology? But guys, you can't come out of the bullpen with 6 guys throwing 100 miles an hour. I mean, that's just it's obscene, So who knows? Anything else you want to add on injuries before we get to some of these trivia questions to wrap up the show today?
No, I think covered it pretty well.
Okay. So we're going to go with the first question that came in was from Rob Weber, who was very nice to me on the Highlights from Low Life show yesterday. Gave me some credit. Here we go.
Yankees trivia. Name the Yankees pitcher who won 20 games in his first season, won the Rookie of the Year, and never won more than 12 games after that.
So we're going to throw this one at Joe because I think Joe, we talked about this question beforehand, and Joe knows this man.
Yeah. This guy was he was only in camp, I think 1 or maybe 2 years, and then wasn't invited back because of some politics. But he was probably the only coach that I had in all the years I've been down in Tampa that was in on every pitch and every game, and he would carry a clipboard around with him, and he just loved the game, and he was just tremendous. Not many Yankee pitchers were Rookie of the Year, and he was, and he won 20 games. He went on to pitch for several teams. I think the White Sox after he left the Yankees, and that's Stan Bonson. But I just love the guy. I had dinner with he and his wife several times, and he's just a super guy. That was actually an easy question for me. I
didn't know the answer. I'll come right out and say it. I did not know the answer. And Bonson wasn't there at the camps I've been to, but I've heard you talk about Bonson on several occasions and what a good guy he is.
Yeah.
So,
okay. We have one more.
One other question I want to ask Joe before we go away, because this is another guy Joe has a relationship with. It came up on the Highlights for Low Life show. One of the guys said Tommy John should be in the Hall of Fame, and they couldn't figure out why he wasn't. Joe, you know why he wasn't, right?
Yeah. I know we're up against the clock here a little bit, but he was involved with a lawsuit with Major League Baseball where he and a bunch of ball players that was similar to the NFL lawsuit for concussions. And he was blacklisted by Major League Baseball. The Yankees never invited back, but he was another wonderful guy too. Had him as a coach several times, and just a super guy. But because of that, and I don't even know where that lawsuit went, but that's one of the reasons he's not around. And he should be in the Hall of Fame. 288 wins. He has one more win than Jim Cott. His WAR is, I think he has a 60 WAR. Jim Cott, who was a great guy as well, I think had a WAR in the 40s. So why Tommy John is not in there? It has to be politics. That's the only thing I can think of.
All right. So our friend Weber says he's got another question for us. So let's see what he's got here. Who he's got? Here we go. Ready?
Okay, another Yankee trivia question for you, a little bit easier than the last one. What 2 Yankee catchers got in a fight because neither one of them wanted to warm up pitchers in the bullpen?
Well, the only guy I could think that would want to fight would be Cliff Johnson. now, who did he fight with? I don't know. Was Rick Cerrone on the Yankees at the same time? Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
No,
neither one wanted to warm up. Maybe it was Dempsey and no, that was a different fight.
Yeah. Well, Cliff had that fight with Goose in the shower.
Yeah, who had the ego? Who are the catchers that have maybe it was like Butch Weiniger or something?
Butch Weiniger. Yeah.
We don't know,
but I can't think of a second.
So the easier question is the one we don't know, Mr. Weber. If you're listening, text in the answer. I don't know the answer. I'm going to text Rob. We don't know the answer.
All right. And now we have another question, though. We've got Frankie. Let's see.
You want to play that one, Adam?
I think I know this one.
I don't even know the question. I didn't read it.
Okay, this is an easy one. I'll give you 30 seconds because I only have 30 seconds. Name the last 3 teams that were reigning World Series champions 3 consecutive years in a row. No looking it up.
Easy. Very easy.
Yep.
Okay. Yankees, Oakland A's, and the Yankees.
Correct.
That's what I think is correct. So I think that's
and
correct.
What year were the Yankees, the first Yankee won? What were the years? That's a tougher question. What years did the Yankees win 3 in a row plus?
59 to 61.
59 to 61, and then they won in yeah.
No, you guys got to go back on that. Back. They lost. They never won in 59. That was the White Sox and the Dodgers.
Okay, 61, 60. No, they lost the 60 to the Pirates, so it had to be going back to the 50s.
Yeah, it was 49.
Yeah.
50, 51, 52, and 53. 5 in a row. Is that something? 5 in a row. Unbelievable.
And then, just so you know, I heard back from Weber. Joe, you got 50% on your question.
It was Cliff Johnson.
Cliff
Johnson and Fran Healy.
Oh,
Fran Healy.
I could see that. I could see Healy.
Yeah.
Healy was a pretty boy. He was like the only thing Healy had going for him was that Reggie loved him. He was Reggie's only friend on the team, right?
Exactly.
So, yep.
What a claim
trick
to
questions.
fame.
Wait.
Yeah. Well,
the answer. Frankie says we got it wrong.
Oh yeah.
But that's not true. Oh wait, it's a trick question. The 3 teams that were reigning World Series champions 3 consecutive years in a row. So Frankie tricked us. 92 and 93, the Blue Jays won the World Series, but there was no World Series in 94, so they were the champions for 3 consecutive years.
Oh.
So Frankie the Yankee stumped us with a trick question, but we did make it in our 30 seconds, even though we got it wrong according to Frankie.
I don't like
it. So that's it for this week. We appreciate the calls in. Frankie with the trick question, Weber with the stumper regarding the catchers, although Asti beat him on the question he thought was more difficult because Asti was friends with Stan Bonson. And we also appreciate the fact that the Big Juicy called in again. I hope to see him on Saturday at the Sharks game.
But Joe, thank you. You were great 2 times now. 2 great shows on medicine.
And then you didn't stumble, fumble, and bumble your way through some of the questions, like who was your AL MVP?
Nothing.
No,
stayed upright.
ALCS winner.
ALCS winner.
All teams. Yeah.
Yes, because I asked it out of order.
I had everything written down in order, and you kind of stumped me, and I kept looking at my notes and saying, "What? AL and NL and."
You sound like Corporal Klinger when he wrote all the answers in one order, and then they mixed up the questions when he was taking the sergeant's exam. Anyhow, boys and girls,
way over time,
gentlemen, thank you for listening. Oh, wait, 1 second.
Who's somebody?
Rob Weber says you got it wrong.
Weber.
He says it was Bob Grimm was the guy who won 20 games.
Yeah.
And won Rookie of the Year, and then never won.
Oh.
So it wasn't Stan Bonson.
Wow.
Well, maybe Bonson, because I'm pretty sure he won 20 his first year.
I'm looking it up as we speak.
No, I think he won Rookie of the Year, but he didn't win 20. That's it. It's the 20.
He went 17 and 12 in 1968. Bob Grimm is the answer. So you got that one. Wow, we got stumped. We are lame ass.
We got to work on
it, guys.
We got to work on it.
We got to work on it. We're going to welcome trivia questions every show from now on, just to show how stupid we are.
That's good. All right.
All right, boys. Have a good night.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
All right.